In the news this week, Mark McGowan is not as sweet as honey, vies the exchange over diversity in personality politics as pre-selection looms, a WAMA News exclusive.
Also tonight, media diversity, power struggles and WA's democracy. How do they correlate? Peter Kennedy's special presentation. A grassroots storybook initiative aims to tell the truth for First Nations people. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loom and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. Sparks flew during WAMA News' Sundowner interview session with Premier Mark McGowan again becomes the target of a political attack after Liberal leader David Honey labelled the government as a personality cult. But Honey didn't get a free ride as he faced brutal questions from community leaders over multicultural candidate quotas. Here's part of the heated exchange.
Well, because we care about the society of Western Australia, not about glorifying one person. Well, let's analyse the Labor Party. Do you remember when the Labor Party were coming into power? It was New Labor. Remember that? It was New Labor. So they weren't old Labor; they were New Labor. And then it was the McGowan Labor government. Remember the transition to that towards the end of the last parliamentary term? Do you know what it is now? It's the McGowan government. That's it. That's all they refer to it as. In Parliament, all the ministers have to get up and trot out their little homily to the leader every time they get up and speak. And it's the McGowan Labor government.
But they also called Barnett government back then. What's the difference?
It's a personality cult on McGowan.
But what's the difference?
But they've transitioned. They're not a Labor Party at all. I would contend they're not a Labor Party. They've completely abandoned the groups that they claim to represent.
So if you're going to be dependent on plebiscite, and you talk about you're not going to interfere in what happens in Mukilbaden or wherever, how on earth are you ever going to have a diverse population that reflects not just the ethnicity, but the colour of our nation?
Sure.
It will never happen the way you guys are going. And unless you do something about it, you may as well give it away.
They're not embracing the Liberal Party at the moment because there's nobody like them in the Liberal Party and there's no candidate that is being pre-selected who looks like them. So all of that East African money that's here is not coming to you. And that's the reality. So until you get to a position where you have a captain's call, you are not going to attract any candidate from the area, nor are you going to attract the votes from the area, nor are you going to attract military support from the area.
Look, I just disagree with you in terms of the assertion around having to have a captain's call in relation to that. It won't happen in the Liberal Party. That's just a fact of the Liberal Party. It's not a centrally controlled organisation, and I think that's a good thing. The way we make sure we do it, for example, we had two excellent Indian candidates coming into the last state election, but as I say, we didn't have any candidates elected. We lost seats. Now, and that was through a different political circumstance. And can I say that was nothing to do with any issue around race or any other issue. There was only one issue that impacted the last state election, and that was COVID. That was it. And I'm confident of that. Now, in terms of how do we make sure we have those, look, the proof of the pudding's in the eating, so you can be sceptical in relation to it. So the proof of the pudding's in the eating. The way we make sure we have those candidates selected is to make sure we have an excellent pool of candidates, and that's what we're doing. And that is making sure we go out. That's the discussion I'm having within the Liberal Party.
Media diversity in Western Australia has always been a concern, as the concentration of power may have a negative impact on our state's democracy. During our Sundowner event, veteran journalist Peter Kennedy made a special presentation on the history of media concentration in WA and the impact it has on you, the viewer.
What I'm getting to is that the issue of media diversity, there were high points and there are low points. And I think, as David mentioned, right now there's a bit of a low point. Why? Because, as David said, the Golden West, Kerry Stokes owns the West Australian, and Channel 7, the dominant TV station, and the community newspapers that you mentioned. So that is a very dominant media position, which raises the, and as far as the ABC is concerned, which has always sort of had a strong role in political reporting, the ABC dropped the ball in the mid-1990s because David would remember the 7:30 report, and you're no doubt interviewed by Alan Carpenter.
Many times. That was during the Noel era. So I was on there pretty well every Friday night as a volunteer.
Yeah, and you got a robust interview.
Yeah.
Which is what you'd expect of a television program which is doing the job. And the Liberal Party president get a robust interview, and you'd expect if the Labor Party was had a problem, then they'd get a robust interview too. And Alan Carpenter, I thought, was very good at presenting. But the ABC, in its wisdom, in the mid-90s, dropped this locally based 7:30 report. Now, I bet that every state cabinet minister and business leader around the country publicly was saying, "Oh, this is a shame." Privately was saying, "This is fantastic. Yeah, I'll never be brought to account again in local TV." And sadly, the TV stations have vacated the issue of current affairs and political reporting. Where do you see it on 7? They do have their weekly program, which I give them credit for, on Sunday, Channel 7. It's hot and cold, but they do it. Channel 9, no. The Channel 10, nowhere. ABC, no. So, not a good thing as far as I'm concerned. And not a good thing, I think, for a democratic society, because a democratic society relies on robust debate. And when we get to robust debate these days, if someone sticks their neck above the parapet, well, social media goes berserk. And they get pulled down very, very quickly. So people who want to get involved in this sort of debate sort of are aware of these sorts of things, and it's, I would say, not a healthy situation with regard to a democratic society. So these are the challenges, I think, that the media faces, and this is why I think what Ivan and Ellie are involved in, an independent media service, is very important to provide another point of view in a diverse media, in a media landscape that's increasingly concentrated.
Well, we certainly had a big event this week, didn't we, Ivan? How do you feel it went?
I think it went fantastic. It's a bit of a shame that we couldn't squeeze everything in, but Martin's presentation regarding the media diversity and the people that works in the news industry is certainly another interesting insight. You can find out more, in fact everything, on the WAMN Extra News Club. Subscribe and support independent local journalism. Full details on wamnews.com.au/news/extra. A 38-year-old man has been arrested and charged after a wild car chase in Perth's southern suburbs. The incident happened at around 10 a.m. on Friday after police saw a stolen Subaru Forester SUV travelling in Applecross. Authorities believe the stolen vehicle was used in 2 burglaries in Daglish this week after the SUV was allegedly stolen. Police officers activated emergency lights, but the male driver allegedly failed to stop and continued his journey at speed across the city. A police helicopter was called to monitor the situation and assist officers, and the chase ended on Tuckfield Street at Fremantle. The male driver abandoned the vehicle and fled on foot before he climbed onto a roof of a building on Canning Highway. A trained police negotiator was dispatched and assisted by DFS WA to bring down the man at 12:10. The Orana man was arrested and currently assisting police with their investigations at Perth Watch House.
The Minister for Youth and Water, Dave Kelly, announced his resignation before the McGowan government's cabinet reshuffle. In a brief media appearance this week, Mr Kelly stated Premier McGowan had asked him to step aside to create new opportunities for other MPs. Most importantly, Mr Kelly's departure from the cabinet will also create room for greater female representation in the cabinet. Mr Kelly expressed his disappointment that he will no longer be a cabinet minister, but was adamant that he was proud to be part of a successful government during the pandemic.
Some of the things I've outlined, stuff at the Water Corporation, saving our native forests, tackling climate change, I hope people will say that during my time as a minister, I've lived up to some of those values.
Western Australia's direct flight between Perth and Manila will commence in March 2023, 3 years after it was delayed by the pandemic. The service is launched based on a partnership between Philippine Airlines, Perth Airport, Tourism WA and the state government. The government confirmed the first flight will depart on the 27th of March 2023 with tickets on sale this week. 3 flights will be available every week from Philippine Airlines, with 156 seats in economy and 12 business class on an Airbus A321neo.
This direct flight with full business class lie flat product will take 4 to 5 hours off that journey, which it makes it easier for our friends, our neighbours, and the celebration of 75 years of diplomatic relations with the Philippines. Having that direct connectivity, there's no better way for us to continue to do business.
WA police are continuing their investigation into the death of the 25-year-old woman after her body was found at the Success Boat Harbour in South Fremantle. Authorities have released further details regarding the woman's identity since the discovery last Sunday. The woman's name is Helen Jeremy Solomon Marsuk from Kungamia. Police describe Ms. Solomon Marsuk as 152 centimetres tall, with dark skin, short black hair and a slim build. Homicide detectives are working to establish her movement timelines between Wednesday the 30th of November and Sunday the 4th of December. She was in the Oat Street area in Carlisle on Wednesday, carrying a pink handbag and wearing a pink dress. Anyone with any information regarding Helen's movements is urged to contact Crime Stoppers.
Multicultural leader Suresh Rajan has been recognised during this week's WAME News Sundowner event for his advocacy work. Mr. Rajan was awarded the Multicultural Accolade for his tireless work within the community and for supporting people in need during difficult times. Meanwhile, Youth Jam Radio founder Isaac Macron was given the Youth Achiever Award, and Yanchep News Online editor Anita McInnes was awarded the Advocate of the Year for their journalistic work within the Perth community.
But I would like to thank the readers who support me, and also the businesses who do support me, because there are some businesses who have supported me from the first day, even when when Yanchep News Online was very new and had very few readers.
Very well deserved to all recipients, particularly Suresh. We'll recap this week's top stories again in just a moment.
But right now, here's Madeline Lombardi with Western Perspective.
Thanks, Ivan and Melly. Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Madeline Lombardi. Storytellers from Mugabala Books, Australia's leading Indigenous publishing house, have journeyed from Yaru country, also known as Broome, to share culture and storytelling to audiences here in Boorloo, also known as Perth. WAMN News spoke with Cole Baxter from Mugabala's social media team and Aggie Manel Caracciolo from marketing about their involvement with the Indigenous Corporation, the importance of diverse storytelling and their favourite new publications from this season.
So Mugabala Books is the leading Indigenous publishing house in Australia. We're based on Yaru country in Broome, and it started in 1984, where there was a call out in community out in Fitzroy to preserve culture, language and knowledge through books, and it kind of evolved from there, from being a Kimberley-based institution to now spreading seeds across the country, and that's the Mugabala way. The Mugabala is actually a banana plant that does spread its seeds throughout certain times of the season, and that's, I guess, the beauty of Mugabala Books, is that's what it does. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I'll get you both to kind of explain to us your involvement at Mugabala Books as well. So we'll start with you first, Cole.
So I do part-time social media for Mugabala, and a lot of the time what that looks like for me is being able to link up with the creators and small bookstore owners like Nat in person and creating content, and we've got lots of authors, illustrators, original storytellers down here, as well as folks that come through Noongar country, and I get to impose some video and photo on them and just have a bit of a giggle and pick their brain, and that's the bulk of what I do with Mugabala, as well as the bulk of the joy that I get to experience with Mugabala.
Beautiful. And yourself, Aggie?
I'm on the same journey as Cole. I'm in the marketing, so doing a lot of the book launches, supporting the creators in how we celebrate their books. So, yeah, that's what I do.
I have a very important question to ask both of you. In your own way, can you tell us what storytelling means for you? We'll start with you, Cole.
Oh, that's good. Truth-telling, uplifting marginalised voices, strength in country, culture and family. We have got so many creators that are connected to Mugabala, to country, to themselves. There's one family in particular that consists of Auntie Sally Morgan, who's a prolific children's picture book writer who is quite prolific from her first title, My Place, I believe. And then her mum, Auntie Gladys Milroy, who's an illustrator and author, and Sally's sister, Auntie Helen Milroy, and then another one of their mob, Amblin Quay Mulliner, and they just about do everything under the sun. And that just so strengthens all the, just that ethos of culture, truth-telling, everything that we're going for, and it's, dispersed out there in the form of children's picture books, poems, anthologies, short stories, more long-form stuff.
Yourself, Aggie. It's a very...
That's just covered everything, I think.
No, you got it.
No, I think that's, just to echo, it's to echo that is it. I think in this space, it is changing the landscape. I think in Australian literature, I think it's also about a lot of these texts are to be looked not only as stories, but as, truth. And we've been a long time, our story's never been as validated as it is now, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I also think that these texts become academic, like literature, to question and to challenge what especially contemporary Australia has believed in the past. So, on top of what Cole said,
100%. And what Cole was also saying, Mugabala books, they demonstrate heaps of storytelling through children's books, through art, through literature, through poetry, as well as you were saying as well. For our viewers out there who don't know who Mugabala books are, tell us about the importance of First Nation storytelling and the importance of Aboriginal-run businesses in particular as well.
I think it's invaluable. It's to have a First Nations publishing firm that is grounded in a vision of relationship building, of elevating and empowering our own mob and our own voice. You couldn't find a better place to do that, and then to be able to receive the rewards of that through literature is everything in a journey as a creator. Not only in words, but in the illustration and in the artwork that's created through this process. So in the business sense, I think it also creates employment opportunities that are aligned with arts and culture, which are aligned with what we actually want to do in life. And I'm fortunate enough to be working in a space that's so aligned with my values and community. And that's another element to Mugabala books, is that everything that's created is not just for the individual, but it's created for the community and a gift to community.
Beautiful. I have one final question. Yeah, did you want to add to that as well, Cole?
Yeah, let's grab this right here.
Yeah,
this is the importance. Young Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Yorgas and gender diverse people, visibility, representation. This is so massive. That's great for a lot of people to be able to, say, walk into a Dimmicks and pick something off the shelf and just be like, cool, kids book, yep. But, these are the lesser heard voices that are just as important and deserve more equity. So, because everyone can relate to a young princess, but for a young black person to see themselves on the cover of a book and be like, wow, that's me inside there, just speaks volumes. So visibility, representation is something that's always at the forefront of when I'm speaking with creators and people that support our books. They have gotten the memo and know that that's what we're all about, and that's what sort of drives us. And yeah.
Do you believe mainstream storyteller distributions are lacking representation when it comes to showcasing stories from diverse communities and cultures?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. I feel like in the last 2 years, things have come a really long way, and it used to be that we were like one of the only places that people would come to find some of these stories, and now like you can walk into many, particularly like indie bookshops, have always tried to champion, I think, a broader range of books, but I don't think it's really gone far enough, and I don't know that people are necessarily curating their books thinking about what voices need to be supported or which voices aren't getting publicity but deserve the spotlight. And I think that's what I would like to see in the future, is more curation that that spotlights amazing titles like Magabala titles that should be showcased but don't always have the tens of thousands of dollars of publicity money that get put behind them, you know.
And now here is AMA WA spokesman Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly COVID-19 update and medical commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. As we approach Christmas, really important to remember a couple of things about gift giving. One, tablet batteries for young children, serious health issue if they swallow those. So try and be very careful with them. Wrap them in sticky tape as the old ones, even as soon as you get them out of the old toys, and make sure that new ones aren't left lying around where kids can get them. And dispose of old batteries thoughtfully using the recycling facilities that are provided. And the other is for the mental health of parents. Please don't give children toys that make annoying noises. It then takes us quite a while to figure out how to explain to the children what happened to those toys when we inevitably have to get rid of them for our own sanity. In terms of COVID, of course, good idea to put a mask on when doing the Christmas shopping. None of the people in the shopping centre want to give you COVID, I'm sure, but some of them could during this current wave, and that's going to mess up the celebrations and the chance to be with those that we love, particularly our elderly and relatives who we know are more vulnerable to the severe complications of this disease. Speaking of which, it's good to see at least one federal backbencher calling on the government to upgrade our vaccination standards to match those of the US, where people are able to get a booster if they want one after 3 months since their last one. They're able to get the new Omicron bivalent booster if they want one. And they're also, of course, vaccinating young children. And this is a time of year when we like to create a good experience for them. It would be great if our under fives could get their first doses of Moderna and Pfizer, and it would be terrific if those over 5 could get the boosters that they should be getting by this stage. There are some in the UK and in Australia who want to use young children as a reservoir to spread the disease in order to have some herd immunity around. There's a couple of problems with that. One being we don't know what will happen in the long term to children who are infected with this virus. Secondly, we don't know how many of those children will develop severe complications from this disease. And third, we're not at all convinced that the immunity that you get after this virus is particularly useful. So, and it may in fact even reduce your immune protection from other diseases. And in countries where there are high rates of children being admitted to hospital at the moment for things like RSV, the former US Surgeon General, for instance, is suggesting this may be related to COVID's ability to not strengthen, but in fact weaken the immune system of the paediatric population. So people should be listening to the voices that are calling for at least parents to have a choice in this realm, because if this is the age of personal responsibility, if governments are giving up on telling us what to do or imposing restrictions in order to allow the disabled and the vulnerable in the community to be out and amongst us, at least give us the tools that we need to prevent severe disease, hospitalisation and death through being able to access the vaccines that we want to have. Thanks very much for your time, and try to stay sane during the silly season.
That was Dr. Andrew Miller, and now a brief weather update. Western Australia will remain warm as we approach summer, with temperatures hovering around the low 30s. 30 degrees on Monday and Thursday, 32 on Tuesday and 33 on Wednesday. 29 on Friday, and evenings will remain cool throughout the week between 14 to 18 degrees. It'll be mostly sunny for the next few days, and that's Western Perspective this week. I'll be back next Sunday. Until then, Ivan and Melly, it's back to you.
Thanks, Maddie. And now here's Leo. What's coming up on 6 News tonight?
Thanks, guys. On 6 News, a 56% increase in power prices by the end of 2023. That's the forecast for Aussies from some out of Parliament being recalled. Former Vic Labor Minister and MP Adam Somyurek now seems likely to defeat the Reason Party's Fiona Patten in the Victorian Upper House. And Morocco defeats Portugal to become the first African nation to reach the Final Four in the World Cup. As fallout continues over the death of a US journalist who was covering the Cup in Qatar. You can see full details on those stories and many more by heading to our YouTube channel. Just search 6 News AU to find us, or watch live on our website, 6newsau.com. And now, the guys, it is back to you.
Thanks, Leo. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly and myself, we wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.